Hello friends and welcome to the Southern Mountain Kitchen. Today we're going to make homemade vegetable soup. So everything you see on my counter is what we're going to use to make this vegetable soup. And I got to tell you, this is a really great thing. Whether you're a vegetarian or anybody who just likes a good vegetable soup, this is for you. There is a lot of really great ingredients in here, from everything from the potatoes to carrots to you name it. We have some really great things going on. And to make this, just to make sure that if you were a vegetarian and you're eating it and you want it to be that way, we have vegetable stock going into it, which doesn't contain anything else. So this is really a wonderful thing to make, and we're going to get started with this. So I have 3 medium potatoes here that I'm cutting up. If you had like 2 large, you could probably do that. We're gonna basically make sure that they're peeled and cleaned and ready to go, and then cut them into small pieces, because you have to remember, when you're eating the soup, you're going to be using a spoon, and you want to make sure that whatever you're putting into this can fit on the spoon. So just make sure you cut these up into a smaller size and work your way through. Basically, I just cut it across the center, flip it over, slice it a few times, and go across that and cut these into small pieces. It's really not a hard process to do it. And if you like potato, you could add more to it. This is one of those wonderful things, like when you're making vegetable soup, if you like a particular thing, you can add more of that into it if you want to, because in the end, it's still going to be a very similar thing when we get done with it. So we're going to get these all cut up, and then once your potatoes are cut up and we make sure that they're all the right size, we want to actually put these into a bowl of water until we're ready to use them, because 1, it's going to take a little bit of the starch off, but 2, it's also going to keep them until we are ready to use them so they don't start turning like yellowish or whatever, because we want to make sure that they stay ready until we're ready to put them in, and it's going to be a couple minutes. So we're going to go ahead and put them to the side in a bowl of water and just let them sit, and that way they'll be in good shape by the time we get back to them. And what we're going to do now is just cut up a few of the things that are going to go into this soup. And we have other things here. So we have like about a medium-sized onion. Again, we want to cut this up really small. We don't want really huge chunks of onion because it takes a little bit for that to cook up. And the best thing I can say is just err on the side of small. It's just going to be better for you to cook it, and make sure you don't get like tough pieces of onion in there that are kind of on the chunky side that didn't cook in the center. So make sure these are broken up into smaller pieces as you're cutting them, because sometimes the onion does stick together. And we're just going to chop this up to where it's pretty decently minced up to where it's smaller sized. And then we're going to move on to other things we have. We have a couple stalks of celery here, which we're going to cut them up. And again, we're going to try to make sure that the slices are smaller, because they have to actually go onto a spoon. But as you're going, make sure that they're not stringy and that you've cut them up, broken them up, and gotten them into separate pieces, because sometimes it will stick together when you cut these up. So we just want to work our way through that. And once we get this completely done, we also have a couple of carrots here. Now, I'm putting in a couple of large carrots here, and I do mean large because the end of these were really thick. When you get to the end of the carrot, if it's like really thick pieces that you slice, you kind of want to like break those up into smaller pieces, like cut them some more to where they are smaller. But as you can see, just like go through and slice these into small pieces, as small as you can get, and work your way through it. But when you get to the end, when you get to those big round pieces at the end, just kind of slice across them, and that way you're going to cut them down in size, and they're a little bit more manageable that way. Because if you have all these huge hunks of vegetable coming out of this soup, they're not going to fit on your spoon well if you have really enormous ones. So, and besides, with the carrot, you want to cut it up smaller to make sure it cooks up really well, because it does take a minute for these to cook. So we're going to get them completely cut up. Now we're going to look at some other things that are going to be going into this, because there are some other vegetables that we're going to be adding, and these can be fresh or frozen that are going into our mix. So we're going to have a cup of corn, a cup of frozen green beans, and a cup of peas. Now these can be fresh, frozen, or you can get them out of a can if you want to. That's your choice how you do it. Then we're going to move on to, I'm using a Dutch oven. You can use a large pot, and we're putting in at least 3 to 4 tablespoons of olive oil. And once we get this on our stove, we're going to actually get this up to a medium-high heat, and then we're going to add in the vegetables that we cut up. So we want to make sure that just basically we're putting in the stuff that we actually cut, the onions, the carrots, anything like that that we just used our knife to cut up with. And we're going to actually saute this for a while, because we want to heat this up for at least 5 minutes. So that way these things get a chance to start cooking before we ever get to adding the other things into them, because we want to give them time to actually get softened and actually to a point where they're usable. So, and as you can see, mine have done that, and now I'm adding in a cup of peas, which mine were frozen. Then I'm going to add in a tablespoon of minced garlic and get that in there, and I'm going to mix this up a little bit just to get that garlic around to where it's going to mix in with everything else. Then after that, we're going to add some seasoning to this. So go ahead and mix that up a bit, and then we'll get ready for what's going to come into it next. So for our seasoning, the first thing we're going to do, we're going to have 1 tablespoon of Italian seasoning. And then after this, we're adding a half a teaspoon of salt and a half a teaspoon of pepper to this. And you go ahead and mix that up and get it totally mixed through. And then next, we're going to add 2 cans of diced tomatoes. And these are like the 14.5 ounce cans, but we want 2 of them going into the mix. So once they're poured in, we want to mix them through and let this thing keep going on temperatures like medium high to actually heat this up, because these cans are going to cool it down a little bit by adding them to it. And then go ahead and add in your second can. Now, when you get this in here, this is a lot of tomatoes, but this is going to work for the flavor of the vegetable soup, which is really wonderful. And if you wanted to, you could actually even use the kind that has the Italian seasoning in it, which actually would work really well with this. So go ahead and mix it up. And then once we get this totally mixed, we're going to add in the other vegetables that we had, which were the green beans, which is a cup, and then the corn, which is also a cup. Like again, this could be frozen, this could be out of a can, whatever you wanted it to be. It's just as long as we get it in there. And we're going to cook this for 3 to 4 minutes. So one, we're going to bring this really up to temperature, but we want to get all this some time to marinate and work together to actually have a really great taste. So stir it as you go, let the temperature come up, and then after 4 minutes, we're going to add in 4 cups of vegetable stock. Now, if you don't have vegetable stock, you could add water to this. I think the vegetable stock gives it a way better flavor, so it's kind of giving it a little bit of an edge. So if you have it, use it. If you don't, you can use water. And once we get this all mixed in there and everything's ready to go, we're going to get to the point where we actually bring in our potatoes. So drain the water from the potatoes first. Bring that bowl over, and once we get all of our stock in here and we're ready to go with this, then we will add in the potatoes and just put them straight in there. And then afterwards, mix it up a little bit, because we want to make sure that everything gets moved through. The potatoes get down to the bottom of your pot or whatever you're cooking in, so they're not all just floating on top. And then we're going to cook this with a lid on for at least 30 minutes. And let this get a really good boil going. Now you can turn your temperature down to about medium at this point, and that's perfectly fine. Good thing about this, once this is cooked and you have it and you serve it and you have some left over, you can put this in an airtight container in your refrigerator for up to 5 to 7 days, which isn't really so bad. It's one of those things where, you know, there's not a lot of meat or anything in it, so the vegetables store really well in the fridge. And you could serve this again for lunch or whatever other meal you want to serve it as, because it's really great to warm up. Whether you microwaved it or put it in a pot and just warmed it up again, it's something that it really stays really well, and it's a great thing you use. Or you could even freeze this and bring it back and use it on a cold day during fall, winter, whenever you want to use it. But this is what mine looked like, and it had an amazing taste, and I think you just might like this one. I hope you liked this video, and if you did, please like and subscribe. And if you get a chance, check out the Southern Mountain Kitchen website, where you can get a free recipe, check out the cookbooks available from the Southern Mountain Kitchen, and if you'd like to, you could order a cookbook at a discounted price, cheaper than Amazon, with shipping that is also cheaper than Amazon. So if you get a chance, check it out, and I hope you have a great day.